So, is this Ellen's best new disc set in Zenless Zone 0? I know a lot about the game at this point since I played it for 8 months, and I've dealt with the meta and everything with the power crept Ellen Joe, but now there's this new set, Shadow Harmony, that I find very interesting. By the end of this video, you'll see how this set can benefit Ellen, and how Ellen Joe becomes a crit machine. Clearing content with S ranks is easier with these so-called B rank ice DPS. And since the very beginning of the game, Polar Metal or Woodpecker have been popular for piece options. 6 patches later, we now have Shadow Harmony to consider. Now, which one do you prefer? Polar, Woodpecker, or Shadow? Let me know in the comments. And while you're doing that, I'll do some funny little math with some funny little numbers with Ellen. So we start with the base 5% that every character has in the game. The signature itself provides a flat 24%, and if you were to add the Shadow set's passive, Ellen's M1's passive, and her signature weapon's passive, they make up to 44% more crit rate as you play the game. Together, you already got 73% crit rate. Wait, it gets better. If you upgrade Ellen's core skill, you also get additional 14% crit rate. And if you have a single crit rate substat for each disc slot, they combine up to 14%, which overcaps her crit rate to around 101%. And all of this before any buffs from endgame content such as Shield Defense or Deadly Assault, or teammates like M6 Nicole. The point is, Shadow adds that 12% crit you would exchange for what you're missing, such as Ellen's M1 for example. If you don't have it, now you have the Shadow set to fill in that 12% you would normally get from it. Once you figure out your crit rate resources, you can focus on the attack percent and crit damage substats. Which is crazy to think about because that's the only 2 substats you would focus on instead of the usual 3. Now, the Shadow Ellen playstyle works a little differently. First, you should dash attack 3 times to get the buff going. You do it anyway for charges and the buff lasts 15 seconds. In comparison, when you crit with 4-piece Woodpecker, you get a little more than double the attack percent bonus instead. However, each buff of Woodpecker is calculated separately, which by the way lasts 6 seconds each in a burst of damage. Shadow's refresh mechanic is a breath of fresh air. The Shadow set buff refreshes each dash attack, meaning you're not constantly watching separate cooldowns or worrying about missing the timing. It's smooth, consistent. Unlike my inconsistent upload schedule, Shadow's buff refresh is reliable. Now, can you just slap on the Shadow set with terrible substats and still perform well? No. The set's not a miracle worker, but more of a worthy competitor. I do think it's worth the investment of getting the set if you don't have a solid build for Ellen yet. Or, while you're farming for Trigger or a zombie and got a few extra pieces, crit damage, ice damage, and attack percent are the best main stats for her, and I usually run 2-piece Polar or 2-piece Branch. So here is my to be honest summary. To be honest, Shadow Harmony is a game changer, especially if you're running Ellen with a non-ice team with agents like Lighter, Astra, or Trigger. It's like the Woodpecker set, but less micromanaging at the cost of extra attack percent. So you have to figure out how to increase the attack percent from substats for maximum benefits. If your team already has another ice agent like Lycone or Sukaku, Polar is still fantastic, especially if you're facing enemies weak to ice. You do not need to farm for this new set if you already have a good build. Last but not least, if this breakdown helped you understand Ellen's potential, hit the like button. It tells me to make more builds like this. Whatever set you choose, always upgrade your game proxy. Happy farming.